Well, hey there. Hello! ModSky back at it again with an actual video. This one's format is going to be a little bit different. I actually edited it for one, and I wrote a script. So, you're probably saying to yourself, Sky, Chris never talked about cults. You're just jumping on this bandwagon for the views. And if you said that, you would be both wrong and right. Chris did talk about cults once on his channel, and views off this wouldn't hurt that much, I won't lie. However, this is something that I am very serious and passionate about. I actually wanted to make this video about a month ago when it first came out. However, the backlash against the Rewired Soul hadn't really happened at that point, and people were still trying to defend him. I kind of thought I would have gotten squished under the weight of the Rewired Soul, and given I only have 27 subscribers, and one of those is me on my alternate channel. Try to figure out which one it is. However, a while ago, about a month or two, Chris put out a video titled "Is Jesus Christ Manipulating You?" about the ex-Mormon YouTuber Jesus Christ. I actually hadn't heard of Jesus Christ until this particular video, and the video Chris talks about, which I'll put in the clip here that he uses.
I was raised in a highly controlled religious group. Some people call it a cult. Although I was able to escape the control of this organization, my kids have not. I am one against many.
He's talking about how he left Mormonism, but his kids are still in it, and how some people consider it a cult. Chris goes on to say that no, Mormonism isn't a cult because he has friends who are Mormon.
Here's my story about the Mormon religion. I've never been Mormon, but I grew up here in Las Vegas, Nevada. For those of you who don't know, Las Vegas, Nevada has a ton of Mormons. So most of my best friends growing up were Mormon.
He also brings up some faults he has with the church, such as racism and homophobia, but is still adamant that these traits a cult does not make.
Some other things that I didn't like about the Mormon religion was, and this is not a blanket statement by any means, but I met a lot of people who were racist, okay? For those of you who don't know, I'm actually half black, so that is an issue for me, okay? Again, not all Mormons are racist, but I met a significant amount of racists, all right? The other thing is too, I also grew up, my mom's best friends were gay, and the Mormon religion is very anti-LGBTQ, but not all at all, okay? Not all. All right, I wanna make that clear because I know someone's gonna try to misinterpret what I am saying. But these are things that I personally took issue with, all right?
He also brings up how 12-step programs are sometimes compared to cults, but they're not cults, so...
I got sober through 12-step programs. And a lot of you who don't know about 12-step programs, like you might hear people say, oh, AA is a cult, NA is a cult. And it drives me bonkers when people say that 12-step programs are a cult, because 12-step programs are not a cult.
Now, what Chris brings up is how people perceive the word cult. Hi, Future Sky here. I decided to put this part of Chris's video here because it seemed to fit the best. You'll see what I mean when it starts playing, but he basically proves the entire point I'm trying to make in the video.
When somebody hears the word cult, like this is one of the reasons why I teach you all to practice mindfulness. When you hear certain words, you immediately get a picture in your head. Like if I said the name Jeremy, right? You're getting a view in your head of what Jeremy is, okay? So when I say the word cult, I know a lot of people, when they heard Jesus Christ say the word cult, they imagine some compound, you know, in the middle of nowhere, staying away from society.
And this is what Chris's argument hinges on. The thing is, I don't think Chris knows what the definition of a cult actually is. See, in the video, he says he watches a lot of cult documentaries. The thing about those are, Most of the cults that get documentaries made on them are the most extreme version of what a cult is. The most popular being Jonestown and Heaven's Gate. And if you don't know how those ended, they were the two largest cases of mass suicide in American history. So, if your perception of cults is Jonestown, Heaven's Gate, and perhaps even the Rajneeshpuram, a cult that tried to poison an entire town, of course Mormonism doesn't look like a cult. Mormonism's control, if they're anything like the Jehovah's Witnesses, is a much more hidden, much more indoctrinated type of control. They are not moving people onto a compound. They are not gearing them up for a mass suicide or any other over-the-top thing, but they are controlling people. The way you find out if a religion is a cult or not is through the bite model. Chris should probably know what that is if he's as into cults as he says he is. And I have a feeling he doesn't know what the bite model is. The bite model is a test created by Steve Hassan, which is basically the universal test to see if a group is a cult. BITE stands for behavior control, information control, thought control, and emotional control, with a bunch of self-contained points within those that I really don't have time to get into. I'll probably make a video on that later. However, I will leave a link to the bite model in the description below. What makes a cult isn't whether or not a cult will lead to a mass suicide or some other over-the-top act, but how much control a cult has over a person. Now, while I've been in a cult, I admit I'm not an expert in the field. However, a channel called Telltale, formerly Telltale Atheist, has done so much research into the topic. I'm going to link to Telltale's Is Mormonism a Cult video down in the description, along with his video with Mr. Atheist going over the different points of the bite model about Mormonism specifically. And what those videos say is yes, Mormonism ticks some major boxes when it comes to cult-like behavior, and it's that behavior which is damaging. However, I'm not here to prove whether or not Mormonism is a cult. So, if this video isn't trying to say that Mormonism is a cult, what is it trying to say? What I'm trying to say is that a religion doesn't have to be a cult to be dangerous or to be hurtful. What Chris says is that Jesus is manipulating us by using the word cult and playing off of what people perceive the word cult to mean. The thing of it is, by saying this, it also makes it sound like he couldn't have been hurt by the religion because it wasn't a cult. This is both wrong and dangerous. My blog, The Art of Leaving, is all about people who have left all sorts of high-control evangelical religions and have been traumatized by it. I myself has been traumatized by such a religion. If you have time, go back and watch the very first video on this channel. It's my story of how I left the Jehovah's Witnesses and just how much it has affected me. High control religions are separate from cults, however they share one thing in common, and that's control. These religions control what you wear, what you do, what you think, and what you say, and what you watch. And this level of control can break a person. It broke me. Jesus never says it's a cult. He calls Mormonism a high-control religion and that some people may call it a cult. And this is very important. Chris's entire argument hinges on the fact that Jesus is calling Mormonism a cult, which he is not. Chris claims to be a mental health channel, but in this video he completely misses the entire point of Jesus's video. Mormonism hurt him. It hurt his mental health, and he's afraid it's going to hurt his children's as well. In Jesus's video, you can clearly see how upset he is, and yet Chris is painting him as this master manipulator, something Chris himself has been accused of as of late. Those in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. The fact of the matter is that spiritual abuse is a thing, and it leaves so many people broken and traumatized. To prove his point, Chris brings on an ex-Mormon for the last segment of the video to prove that Mormonism isn't a cult because he was in it and he left fine. However, people have good experiences leaving the Jehovah's Witnesses too. They're far and few between, but they exist. My own exit wasn't as bad as it could have been. Having one person come on and prove a point doesn't actually prove your point. It is one drop in a bucket of a lot of voices saying how they were hurt by this religion. Not only that, the guy he brings on wasn't born into the religion. He was a convert. The context of a convert leaving and a second or third generation person leaving is entirely different. Mr. Atheist has a lot of videos on how fucked up Mormonism is, and even if you're not an atheist, they're worth a watch. I'm not atheist and I enjoy them as well. One of the points he makes, though, is Utah's suicide rate, which has skyrocketed 46.5% in the last decade, according to the Utah Salt Lake Times. Now, the American Southwest is basically the holy land for Mormonism. Part of the reason suicide rates are so high is kids, gay kids, and trans kids, and kids who just don't believe feel trapped in a religion they cannot escape from no matter which way they turn. This damages their mental health, and for Chris, a mental health channel, to completely skip over the fact that this is something that can hurt people, a perfect opportunity to speak on spiritual abuse, to not go, not all Mormons, and accuse this man who is hurting of trying to manipulate people. I think it's shameful. I think it's counterproductive, and I think it's just telling people who are going through this that you're not in a cult, don't call it a cult, it's fine. I know Mormons that are nice. And that kind of dismissal can be devastating to young people who are trying to leave. I used to be a fan, but I, in good conscience, cannot condone this channel anymore. So Chris, if you're watching, I doubt you are, but if you are, read up on spiritual abuse. Because spiritual abuse isn't just limited to high control religions or cults. It can happen in any religion. And acting like someone's pain is a manipulation tactic is one of the least productive things concerning mental health I've ever heard. Do your research before you decide to give a hot take on something you don't fully understand. However, it seems that's what you built your channel on, and I should have seen that before. So, this has been Mod Sky, and I'm exhausted, y'all.